an inside look at the restaurant industry and entrepreneurial insight to help you succeed. It's the Paper Trails Podcast with Albemarle Paper Supply.
All right, welcome back, guys, to the Paper Trails Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Calagiramitros, and we are here with episode 16 with the
Piraino family with DePalo Foods. And so I'm super pumped to have these guys on. Very excited. This is the first kind of family one that we have. We have Rico, the father, the dad, the original that started the company. Now we got Joseph and Philip that came on board, and we will hear all about their background. But if this is the first time you guys are kind of plugging in and checking us out, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or watching us on YouTube, or any of our social media platforms, this podcast is all about entrepreneurship, business ownership, the food industry. We're based in kind of Charlotte, North Carolina. But you can always learn, from everybody's experiences and backgrounds and stories. And this is what I love to do. I love to find out people's stories and backgrounds. And I'm super pumped for today's episode. And so why don't we do this? Because this is actually the first time a lot of us have met. And I'd love to find out more about how we started, DePalo Foods. And so I know, Rico, you're the one that has the history here. And, so tell us a little bit about how did everything get started? How did you start in the industry? What's the original story?
Well, I basically started back in 1982. Started out of college, hated the retail business because I watched my parents work from 6 in the morning till 6 at night. Said it's the last thing I wanted to do. So went off to college, came back, and my brother started getting into the wholesale business.
Okay.
And they convinced me to come on. And we started selling, peddling up and down the streets in New York, store by store. And the item just took off. And our distribution expanded. And then we started reaching out to outside markets in Boston and Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, and then ran out of space and decided to move the company to Charlotte, North Carolina.
What was that first original product?
It was the same product we currently make, the
Okay.
calzones, strombolis, and items that are filled with meats and cheeses, savory items.
Okay.
Of course, back then, there was very little out of the deli area of the grocery store. There were cheeses and cold cuts, but the prepared foods were slim to none.
Okay.
And we started in that area of the store. As time went on, we built a facility in Charlotte, expanded onto the pizza business, built a good-sized company, and sold that business in 2002.
Nice.
And then
Now, how was that? Was that bittersweet? Did you like selling? How did that pan out?
I was still young at the time. It was bittersweet for one thing, but it was I wasn't fully done yet. So basically, I worked for the company for 8 years,
Okay.
ran it completely separate, and decided to leave 8 years later and form another company. So DePalo Foods, back then it was DePalo Bakery, was started in 2001 as a mom and pop sweet goods company. And back in 2011, we started converting the business over. Sweet goods was a tough business for us. I really didn't grow up in that type of business, and there was a lot of competition out on the street, and just felt that there was better things out there. So
Sure. Now, in New York, when you talk about the products that you had, you manufactured them or you just were distributing?
no, we manufactured.
Okay, so you did what you're doing now,
Yeah.
just up in New York.
Just up in New York, and then we got, just started growing the business just little by little. We got our big opportunity. Boar's Head Provision Company started handling the item in 1983, and it just mushroomed. It went all over at that time, and the product got into a lot of small stores, and it just became a success overnight. So,
And that's up in New York.
yes.
Now, did you sell that or did you
So
just,
we moved the whole company and 32 families to Charlotte back in 1994.
and you're still running the
We ended up shutting everything down up there and moving it all to Charlotte.
okay, but do you still distribute up to
We do. We go all the way. back then and now, we go all the way up to New Hampshire, really, and all the way down as far as some stores in Florida and as far west as Pacific Northwest.
Actually, Hawaii as well.
Yeah.
No
we
kidding.
got product in Hawaii.
Now, is that something that you guys find distributors that do that, or you guys do that?
Well, most of it is chain driven. They have stores out on the West Coast. They have stores in Hawaii.
Gotcha,
you know, so it's chain driven. We deliver right to the warehouse, which stores are self-distributed. So when they self-distribute, it goes wherever they go.
Gotcha. So essentially, you make the product, you have the relationships with the stores, and then it gets delivered, and then they handle it from there.
Yeah. So we had the relationship with the headquarters.
Gotcha.
So the headquarters has, say, 300 stores, and those 300 stores are scattered along the West Coast.
Gotcha.
Some in Hawaii and things like that. It's very common in the retail side of the business.
Okay. And you said your brother's the one that introduced you to the industry?
Actually, we grew up in the food business, retail stores. We had 3 retail stores at the time. And then when we started this, we shut the store down, worked out of the store, and then shared a piece of real estate with someone that was USDA inspected, because we were actually dealing with meats. So we rented his space until we could buy our own building, and then bought our own building.
And I didn't even know that part.
Nice. So your family has been
in the food business forever.
Like even your parents?
Even my parents. Yeah.
That's all. So there's a long lineage here of yeah. I mean, and here's the other thing that I always say is that there's a lot of things that you can buy, but experience isn't one of them.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just something that, like, when you've just done something for, like, you already know the bumps, you already know what to look for, you already know the dough, I don't know your world like that, but you already know some things that, okay, you know what, this is what a good product is going to do, this is what one's not going to do. I mean, even the little tour that we took, a while ago, 6-9 months ago, I was blown away at the machinery. I mean, it's intense. Yeah. Like, it is a lot of stuff that you guys have in your, I mean, it just, and I'm imagining astronomical pricing. And so Rico, is it pretty difficult to get into the, like, manufacturing this stuff?
It's, and when you say, is it difficult? You have to have assets, right? So you got to have assets, and you got to put them in place before you start. So you can't start with all that equipment. That equipment didn't come in one day.
Gotcha.
So that equipment came little by little. We get to a certain point, and we add equipment. Get to a certain point, take care of another bottleneck. Get to a certain point, take care of another. And gradually you build it. It's like your business as well. You have so many trucks. As you expand, you need more trucks.
100%.
Got to go out and get another truck. Need a driver. Need more people in the office to service the accounts. And you have a service business, but you also have hard assets that you have to have
100%
to service that business.
Yeah, 100%. We started in a little 5,000 square foot warehouse, and my dad, we used to put all of his, my family is in restaurants. We've had as many as 7. We have 3 now that we own and operate, and a 4th one we have some partners that run it. But yeah, he just had a little 5,000 square foot warehouse where he just had equipment and tables and ran hoods and fryers, and we just put the stuff to the side, and no office. No, we went to Office Depot to get a laptop and a QuickBooks wholesale edition because we don't know. I assumed I was a wholesaler. I didn't even know. I was 22. My cousin was 18. I mean, when I tell you we didn't know anything, And so it was just the 2 of us. We did everything: deposits, deliveries, sales. I mean, we did everything.
I've done it all.
Yeah, and so I definitely understand where you're coming from. And so, well, first off, how cool is it to have the kids in the business?
Great. Great.
I mean, I think that is the absolute, the gentleman that I had here beforehand, he's a restaurant owner here in town. And he was saying his dad, he's from New Jersey, originally, and his dad owned like a distributorship, for food. And he said on Saturday mornings, he would just hop on the truck with his dad, and he hated it because he wanted to watch cartoons, but he said he'd love to, like, enjoy it because it was the time that he spent with his dad,
right,
like, in the business. And I'm like, that's really awesome. So cool. So how did Joseph, Philip, how'd you guys hop on board?
So I think I started back in 2016. Our family rule is before we can come work for the family business, you have to go out and, work for somebody else or find your own way or, do something for a set amount of years until, we think it's the right time for us to join. So,
okay.
As you remember, I was in the restaurant business.
I do.
6 or 7 years. That's how we first met.
Yep.
Then I think I introduced you to Rico.
Yep.
What was it? Maybe 2015, 2014.
Yeah. Yeah, probably 5-6 years ago.
So then I joined the business. I'm head of operations now. Do the day to day. Making sure everyone's doing their job, stuff like that. But it's been a blast. We get to travel the world together to go see new machinery and, visit customers, go to shows. And to be able to do that with your family is like probably the best blessing you could probably ask for.
100%. First off, the rule, I love that.
Yeah.
Unwritten rule.
Unwritten rule. Yeah.
Whose idea? I mean, is this anybody's idea? Or?
It just happened. Yeah. And it's that's why it's an unwritten rule. We never set our sights on joining that industry, let alone the family business.
Sure.
And I don't know if it was his plan or anybody's plan, but it was kind of just happened organically. Philip was doing his own thing. I was doing my own thing. And then just at certain times, the business needed certain people.
Yeah.
And those certain people happened to be in our family.
What did you do, Joseph, before working for DePalo?
So I actually went to Appalachian State.
Okay.
I graduated as a hospitality and tourism management degree major.
Okay.
And, I was looking for jobs all around Charlotte, ended up finding one at the Le Meridian in Sheridan Hotel.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was an assistant manager to some of the restaurants there. I was working at Evoke Steakhouse. I was working in Social Bar and Kitchen. And I kind of just wanted to learn as much as I could, from the management team there. And spent about like a year and a half there and kind of noticed that food and beverage just wasn't my thing. The hours, it was either early morning hours or late afternoon hours with off days, like random days during the week. So, as me as a type of person, I'm a very social person, and I just need that time and interaction with people because I'd just be sitting at home like waiting to go to work.
Yeah.
But after that, I applied for a few jobs in sales around Charlotte area at some of the hotels, and they kind of just were falling through left and right. And my cousin, who's our VP, we were talking one night and just discussing, and he was like, "Well, what if you want to do sales, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do want to do sales." And he asked me if I would come along with the business. And I mean, it didn't take me long enough to think that out. I was just like, you know what? This is a great opportunity. I had a great time. Let's just hit the floor running.
Did you even think about working for the family business or not really before?
No, I was set to find a sales job at a hotel in Charlotte. I was just set on that.
So they had bad experiences when they were young. They worked too hard there, and they never wanted to come back.
Hey, listen, I mean, and there is something to that. I still help out my dad at his restaurant on the weekends. Tomorrow evening I'm working. Sunday lunch I'm working. I mean, I still help out, and my dad he is a classic type A Greek, just choleric, driven person, and man, it's difficult sometimes to work with people like that. And so I tell him, I'm like, Dad, I'm like, you're lucky that I'm your son, because if I wasn't related to you, I'm not sure if I could do this full time. You know what I mean? So, I definitely feel that. So, now what years was this when you first hopped on board or you were looking for work?
So I first hopped on March of 2017.
Okay.
So I've been with us for a little over 3 years now, almost 3.5 years. And, with me, it's funny because you have both sides of the table, Philip and I. Well, we share both two sides of Enrico's brain. Philip more the manufacturing side and knowing, all the machines and understanding how many people we need on the line and packaging and in the baking and production. For me, it's more of how can I look at sales. I still need to know the machines because I need to know what we have the ability to make.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I'm traveling a little bit more. I'm learning the accounting side and more of the books and trying to understand putting it together like a sales budget and things like that. So that's what most of the first couple of years were about. And it was a great opportunity because I learned so much from somebody I've always learned from.
100%. So, tell us the last 3 years. What's the experience? What have you learned? What's your side? And then I'll ask Philip. From operations side, what's some stuff that you've learned? From somebody that wanted to be in sales. What does it take to drive a company's business forward? Answer that.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely glad I took accounting like 5 times in college. So, I learned so much like from our business especially, but I've learned a lot about what it takes to look at the books, what kind of promotion programs I need to put together for different customers, because everybody's in a different area. It takes different freight for us to ship our product to someplace. It's so different companies decide to do different promotional programs because that's what they've done or that's what they do. So when it comes to working with a customer direct, like Enrico was talking about a little ago, we work with some of our customers direct. That means we're going to ship everything into a DC, and then they're going to push everything out to their local DCs
Stores, yeah.
all around those
Gotcha.
those areas. So once the distribution centers have them, then they ship out to the stores. So it's kind of like their own web. But you got to think that there are some companies that use distributors. So the distributor purchases the product and then they'll deliver it to those stores because they're a little bit smaller of a supermarket chain or a company like that. So learning all the different areas and learning, because before this, I probably knew all the supermarkets around North Carolina.
Sure.
But nothing but around West Coast. Like you go to the West Coast, you won't have a Publix or a Harris Teeter or a Food Lion anywhere in sight. It's all different names.
What is out there? Curious.
You have Safeway, you have Sprouts, you have Albertsons. There's so many different, not to mention all the mom and pops. So like if you go up to Chicago or New York, you have all these mom and pop supermarkets still that order from a distributor, and they're not big, but they've just been around for so long that people have just gotten used to, going there every single week and buying their produce or, their meat. So there's a lot when it comes into traveling, because when we travel, it's a lot of get there, day before, go see a bunch of stores, look at the retails in the stores, because everywhere you go, things differ. It's not the same all across the United States.
Now, when you guys say you travel, you're traveling to
a headquarters,
to these, big chain distributors or, grocery chains to present your product, to see if they want to sell it, right?
Of course.
And what's when it comes to that, at least here's like the sales side of me, like what is, is it the quality of the product? Is it price point? Is it everything? Is it packaging? What sells?
It's being prepared. So what sells is you have to be prepared for the sales call, right? So I come and see you. You're the customer.
Yeah.
Before I can sell you anything, I got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I go and visit, and then we start talking about what you're doing. And then after we figure out what you're doing, it becomes more of a casual sales call.
Gotcha.
And then you start developing, okay, here are some of the items, and these are the places where I think they fit your stores.
Perfect.
What do you think?
So for anybody out there that is in sales, makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. I mean, prepare. You got to know what you're talking about.
That's
right?
the Boy Scout motto. Yeah. Be prepared.
Nice. I love that. Okay. Philip, on your end, give us your thoughts. You've been there for 4 years, you said? 2016?
Yes, 2016.
What are some things that, well, first off, are you more of, outgoing social person and you're more like Mr. Fix-It, like operate? How did you guys even develop these roles? Or you just like,
I think we kind of just fell into them. I mean, obviously when you own a business, there is no titles. We don't have titles in our company.
True. That is true.
As far as the family goes, it's, what needs to be done gets done. And, a lot of the times, my job is to just keep the operation moving, whether it's scheduling people or, dealing with an HR problem or having a machine down. They call me Mr. Fix-It, but
do they? Well, listen, I mean, in our situation, my cousin John is like the Mr. Fix-It IT guy. Like
yeah.
I mean, God bless me. Somebody says put up a frame, and I'm like, all right, hold on, what's like I'm kind of looking at like this needs to go like in wood, right? Like I'm literally so but it's good. Same with my parents. My dad and his 2 brothers own the restaurants together.
Uh-huh.
my other two uncles, specifically my cousin John's dad, my uncle Jimmy, he's the fix-it guy. I mean, he can look at a deep fryer and an AC unit a little bit and some I mean, he knows a little bit more about that kind of stuff. You know, he was a mechanic and, you know, he did body work, you know, back in Greece. And so yeah, give us your thoughts on operations, 4 years. What have you learned? You know, how's things panned out? You know, what are some things that we can take away from that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. That's for sure. We enjoy each other's company when we're at work because, you know, we work all day. Some days we go home and then we see each other again. So that's something to enjoy. You know, a lot of people can't handle that. So it takes, you know, talent to work with family
100%
and go home and see them again sometimes.
And actually have a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as operations goes, you know, it's how seeing everything grow and reinvesting in new equipment. You know, it takes a definitely strong mind to say to yourself that, okay, you know, this year was a good year. We got to go back and now we got to reinvest all that money into new equipment and, you know, expand the business. And, you know, it can, at times it's like frightening, you know, are you going to spend all that money to do something and you don't know what the outcome is? The food business is very capital intensive.
Yep.
And it's a fun business though at the same time. So
yeah, I mean, I know I always explain to people my industry, you know, as a distributor versus my dad's is, you know, for us, it's low capital intensive. I mean, you know, I could rent a little warehouse and buy a truck or, you know, a van or something and just buy some products and you can get something going with small, 5, 10,000, 20, I mean, very small versus my dad's restaurant, you know, could be, you know, it's my dad's restaurants are 300 seat, you know, very large, $1 million for the property. You're building equipment. I mean, you're putting in a ton of money. Yep. But as soon as you open the doors, you got cash flow in the restaurant. Mm-hmm. Cash is coming in immediately versus with us, you know, it took 4 or 5 years. I mean, I remember my first 4 years, you know, we would maybe make $500 a month and we'd only pay ourselves maybe 7 or 8 times a year. I mean, everything was going back into the business because I wanted to get that paper towel for 10 cents cheaper. Well, I had to buy an extra 2 pallets to do that. And I needed the cash that I sold from the previous. I mean, it just was a big, I mean, it just, you know, but then at a certain point, 60, 100, 150 customers, you got enough cash, you can actually make it happen, you know. And so I definitely see, you know, your side of, you know, I wonder how it is with, you know, the operations and sales. I'm sure I know how I am, and I want to sell everything to everybody. And I wonder how you guys balance that with, well, how much can we produce? You know, how much can we run? I mean, I don't know. Is that something that these conversations you guys have, how does that work in manufacturing? Like, is that something that
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We know, you know, our output, what the plant can hold. And then, of course, Joe and me are in the loop all the time on, you know, hey, I could do this, so just go sell. He doesn't really have to worry about, you know,
your end
thinking that, oh, I don't know if I can do this. It's one of those things you say, go sell, we'll figure it out. You know, it's always, you never say no to a customer.
You know what I mean? That is true right there.
Yeah, and it's keeping the hopper full. Like, we're going to probably use a lot of words or phrases that Enrico's kind of just ingrained in our mind over these past few years that we've been with the business, because keeping the hopper full, if you always have sales coming in, you can really just not have to worry about that other side. You know, it just, if you keep it full, you keep it going, you don't have to tell people, no, sorry, we're full right now. There's going to be people that drop out and, you know, you're going to have to find somebody to pick up those sales. Well, do you want to have somebody in line right behind, or do you want to like wait and then, you know, you don't want to wait. You just always want to keep going and keep those sales coming in.
100%. I have a mentor that helps me, you know, that used to own a paper company that sold it. And he always tells me, expect about 15% loss every year to just whatever. I mean, I don't know, the lease is up and the landlord goes up 30% on the, okay, I'm moving. You know, and he moves out of your territory, or he just closes, or, you know, COVID or whatever, you name it. Like you have to have the hopper, the pipeline full. I mean, like, that's kind of what I preach to my sales team. You know, it's like, how many new price lists have we gotten this week? You know, who's coming on board? Who can we expect an order from this week, the next month? You know, what's, you know, so I just didn't understand how, I didn't know on y'all's, I know for us, you know, my cousin John, you know, knows, and, you know, I'll give him a heads up. Hey, I'm working on a chain of 3 pizza shops. Make sure we got an extra cushion of 10-15% pizza boxes just in case things pop. But I just didn't know when you make it, if it's different or how it's different.
Inventory is way different when you have a frozen item, and I can assure that. I mean, and Rico could probably go a little bit more into this, but you know, when you're selling a frozen item and it's got a clock ticking right after you make it, so it's how are you going to get through that? You know, what you're looking at your inventories. You always have to be looking at your inventories, making sure, because honestly, they're probably going to be buying, you know, 2,000 plus pounds of product, and you know, how are we going to, you know, move that out, bring the next in? So we have somebody that works closely with Philip. When Philip makes the schedule, she runs, basically, you know, orders the ingredients and basically makes the whole schedule for the week.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is why I went into paper, because of that clock. You just
That's
swear to
true.
God,
Yep.
I promise you, I'm like, we could go into produce or something. I'm like, but you know what, man, that is so difficult. I mean, napkins are not going to go bad. Like, you know, so that's
Exactly.
But anyway, Rico, what are your thoughts on this? You know, having the boys coming in. I mean, obviously you have tremendous 82. I wasn't even born yet. I was born in 86. I mean, so, you know, you've you know, you can run circles around us. I mean, you know, is it pretty cool seeing the boys kind of come in and, you know, because I would have to think, you know, 2 to 3 years in, you're just now sinking your teeth into knowing what's happening. Because I know for us, our first 2-3 years, I mean, we didn't know anything, like nothing. And so it took a 24, 36 months to really, okay, I see what's going on here. I'm really grasping. And so I'm assuming that's kind of, you know, where they're at, where it's like now we can make some strides. So I can assume, I guess, depending on your goals, the next 5 years, you know, if you want to grow that much, you could really make a benchmark and make a mark. And so, what are your thoughts on seeing?
You mentioned something before that stuck in my mind.
Okay.
You said mentor. I guess this were actually gentlemen that was in the paper business.
Yes.
So I've always put mentors around me,
It's awesome.
even as a young kid, because I came in the business, I was 22, 23 years old.
Yep.
And I had a lot of people that helped me out and guided me.
Yep.
You know, just like, you know, I was in the New York market. It's a little bit different there than it is in Charlotte, North Carolina.
I can assume.
There was a lot of sharks in the sea. So I had a lot of mentors around me that helped me out and really showed me the way. And I really learned a lot from them. So
Now, was that
you can never have enough, is what I'm saying.
100%?
Yeah, you can listen to everybody and then make your own decisions.
I like that. I like that because the reality is, you know, not everybody's going to want to see you succeed.
Exactly.
And the bigger you get, I mean, the more they want you to fail,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they're looking to.
It's not that they want you to fail. Some people get envious, and you know,
Sure.
I don't think anybody wants somebody to fail. It becomes, you know, you just protect your turf up there. That's just the way it is. Everybody protects their turf, and it's changed. It's changed. But when I was growing up, it was very, very different. So.
So, I mean, I guess if somebody's listening to this and they want to start a business or get into, you know, honestly, anything, you know, I mean, I know I always highly suggest find somebody that's been there and done that has fruit on the tree, which is very important because anybody can tell you anything.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no lack of advice out there. People will tell you their opinion about everything. Now, is it valid? Are they proven? That's a whole nother thing. Right? I mean, if I were to get into, you know, savory manufacturing, there's no better people than you guys. I mean, it's proven. You've proven it. You've built it. You've sold it. You've built it. I mean, that is time. I mean, that is so. There's so much credence. There's so much credibility to that, you know. And so, so your thought, you know, if somebody's listening to this that's in college or fresh out of school or maybe in their mid-20s, maybe they're frustrated and they have really nobody. You suggest they find somebody to mentor them?
Yes, and they remember slow and easy wins the race. So they got to go at it slow. They got to go at it methodically because you're not going to manufacture a lot of stuff quickly.
Yeah.
The best thing to do, I think, for someone starting off is to also, first of all, that mentor is important, number one. Number two is to maybe have somebody make it for them.
Yeah.
Where they make a small commitment in dollars, and they get started and they go pedal, on the food service side, on the retail side, wherever that product fits, and they do it. And then when you get to a certain level, you could either stay with the co-packer or you can go out and build your own facility or rent space from that person and actually manufacture your own product. But when you start getting with brick and mortar and the equipment and everything out of the gate, it takes a lot of money.
Yep.
Someone's got to come up with the cash.
100%. And so, and that's, yeah, I mean, that's, the best way to learn. Start small. I 1,000% agree with that.
Yeah.
Start with somebody co-packing. Yes, you're making less money. Yes. Okay. Of course but you can focus on the sales. I mean, that's what whenever we started, we, hired a CPA, a bookkeeper. Yes, like it costs us money to do all that, but then we can focus on the relationships. We can focus on going out there and taking care of, picking up the clients and taking care of people. So
You did what you were supposed to do. That drives the business.
Yeah.
What drives the business is what you're supposed to be doing.
That's it.
And anybody else can take care of the other stuff.
Keep the main thing the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Sales.
I mean, yeah.
Right
If you got money coming in,
Sales drives the business. Sales drives everything. You won't have a business if you don't have sales. And getting the most out of your sales is the best. And being out there with with people that work for you now is the number one thing. People want to go out, they want to know who they're dealing with.
Yeah.
They just, it's great to see a salesperson, but when you go out with that salesperson, it means a lot to that customer.
I like that. Rico, tell us a little bit about putting the right team together. It sounds like you guys have definitely, it sounds like you got a cousin involved too in the biz.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, you really got a family business here, right? I love that.
A lot of Pirinos now. We have about 65 employees, almost close to 70 employees now.
That's awesome.
So we try to automate as much as we can without changing the product. We go out to the customer. We're that in-between manufacturer. We're not real small, but at the same point, we'll do what the big companies don't want to do. So what they pass on.
Which is what? Like what? What do big?
You might get in a category. We like to be in categories that the big guys are not in. If someone comes to me and is doing an operation at a store level, they got 200 stores and they're doing something and struggling with it. I've developed products for them that we took it in-house, made it for them, delivered it, done, where they can focus on selling the product instead of making the product.
How many products do you guys make?
We have about 45 SKUs. We got the 80-20 rule. You have the 80-20 rule in your business?
Sure.
So we have that 80-20 rule as well. So 20% or 80% of the business. But you have to do stuff for customers.
100%.
You have to have an item.
Yeah.
Sometimes you only make it for one customer, but you got to have it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's you get a big chain that comes in, or that wants to buy from us, but they want to use something random, 17-ounce paper cup. Okay, bring it, John. Find the cup. We got to get this cup in.
Find the cup. Make sure it's here tomorrow.
That's here. 100%. You're right. I mean, and you're willing to do that for the right customer, and we don't
have to go up layers of management. It's decided if I make a commitment with the customer. A lot of times these sales guys go in, they change positions every 2 years. So when a customer asks them for some, they got to go back. Sometimes they never get back to the customer. And, the customer loses hope in that salesperson, and then another guy comes in. So it's like a rotating thing where we're going out, we get back to that customer. That means a lot to that customer. They'll buy anything from you because you took care of a problem for them.
It's so interesting you say that. There's a client that I'm thinking about right here in Uptown Charlotte that I take care of, and there was a new purchasing person in place, and they would just ask me questions. Hey, what do you have that would freshen up the bathrooms? Air fresheners. Okay, I would just text them right back. These are the 4 items that we have, whatever. And they called me like a few months in, and they're like, or either that or we had maybe a physical meeting, and they were like, let me just tell you that not everybody is like you. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, it takes days for people to respond sometimes to a simple and I'm like, yeah, I just know that if I ask a question to one of my brokers or vendors, I need an answer because you guys need an answer. And when they delay 2, 3, 4 days, and I look like an idiot to this guy because I'm like, listen, man, they haven't got back to me. I don't know what to tell you.
The best thing for you to do is just to communicate.
No,
I didn't forget you.
Yeah.
I didn't forget you, but they haven't gotten back to me yet. I'm on it. So just want you to know that.
100%.
It's the best thing to do.
And that's what, so the reason I say that is because I get back to them ASAP because I know I want my answers answered back as soon as possible as well. You know what I mean?
What goes around comes around.
And that's the hardest part for me as I've come into the business, being on the sales side of things. And in the beginning, having to turn to Rico and be like, is anybody going to email me back? He's just like, you got to take your time. You got to let things just play out. And it's like, okay, well, I'm me and I like to get everything and everybody on the same page and I want to get a response. But he's just like, sometimes it's not how it works that way. And honestly, for you, in your industry, getting back to people at that, she was like, yes, thank you for getting back to me.
Yeah.
And in our industry, there are a lot of older people in the industry. There aren't as many youth in the industry, and they've done certain things for a while.
Sure.
And that is something that I've had to learn as a younger person, going and talking to more, experienced people, that things don't happen as quick as you want them to.
Yeah.
But it's funny that, that has taught me, and that's taught me the most about being patient in this industry. Is I've always had a problem with patience, but every single day I have to practice it.
100%. I mean, it's even the advice that you gave earlier, Rico, that you said something about being patient. It'll, businesses take time to develop. It's the first thing my dad told me. My dad's 67 and I'm 34, so he's, 30. So 12 years ago, whenever we started the business, and I'm a very extrovert, excited, outgoing person. It's just my nature, and I was pumped. We got a laptop, we're setting up shop. I'm like, Dad, we're gonna be the next U.S. food here. He's like, relax. He's like, this is gonna take time. Yeah, pump the brakes. This is gonna be a long road. Don't. But now it's just interesting. 12 years later, he's like, he's like, I think
good to watch.
Yeah, it is. And here's the other part. The first 4 or 5 years, because he's not in he didn't see day to day what we were doing. He didn't see tangible results.
Yeah.
You can imagine from a father's perspective, he sees his kids and his son and his nephew 4 or 5 years doing this, and we're not making money. It's like, and he's thinking, just come into the business, just come, there's plenty of money here. Go to the restaurant, take it over, make some money. But I knew the momentum we were building. I felt it. I'm in sales. I knew my pipeline was full, and it's literally our 5th year, our 6th year. It's coming. Bam, it was coming, and then it took off, and then, as they say, the rest is history. So, So what? Give us some vision here. What's the outlook of the family biz? Are you guys looking to get into more SKUs? Are you guys looking to get bigger? Do you guys like where you're at? What's the thought process?
I could say something on that. Definitely our mindset behind growing a business is to provide for the people who work for us. That's definitely our main goal. And also the business always comes first. So, anything that, goes on outside, everything, we all focus on the business. All the money stays in, you do what's best for the company first.
100%.
So, going forward in the future, we all want to expand, keep growing what we have now and, hire more people, buy more equipment, be able to build something that we can look back on one day and say, wow, look what we did. Yeah. Look how many people we provided for. We, jobs, in the Belmont area. And it's just, it feels good to provide jobs for people.
100%. I see that even with us. We have 18 employees, and it's like, I mean, I feel a type of pressure.
Right.
I'm like, this has got to work because people are paying their mortgage and their rent. And I mean, this is people going to school from this little paper thing that we built just just me and, like I feel a certain type of like, okay, like we have to handle our finances, fiscally responsible. We have to be, and back to taking care of the business. I heard a podcast recently where a successful lady CEO said that besides having a child, the most difficult thing is starting a business, because even a child is hard, but it's hard for the first couple of years. A business, it's hard all the time. Like you're feeding this thing all the time.
Yeah,
like,
you have challenges every day. There's all different challenges, whether it be, employee challenges, HR, all different things. Business
Technology.
throws a lot of different things at you, and you got to be able to be you have to be able to multitask. As you know, you multitask every day, and that's part of the business. If you're not a multitasker, then that's why there's people that come to work. They're just not, you know what I'm saying? They go to work because they don't want the responsibility of having a business. To them, it brings a lot of anxiety. Maybe.
Sure.
So.
Was the business that you had DePalo, was it bakery before that you sold?
Yeah. No, it wasn't DePalo. It was Stefano Foods.
Stefano. Is DePalo bigger than what Stefano was, or was Stefano bigger at this point?
Stefano's was bigger at this point.
At this point, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, where do you see DePalo going, Rico? What's your vision, kind of as
Well, my vision for next year.
Next year, next 5 years, next 10 years. I mean, what do you see happening?
Just to expand our customer base. We have a whole other side of the business on food service. We haven't even scratched yet. But you need more boots on the ground to handle food service. It's a totally different business. It's more fragmented. It's a totally different business. Convenience store side of the business. As we all know, we visit the gas station. They're big into food now. You can go to Sheetz, go to all these other places. Big opportunities there, but we haven't even touched the surface there.
That's a good point. I mean, 20 years ago, that wasn't even a thing.
No, they were fuel stores, cigarettes,
candy,
tobacco, and candy.
That's it.
And beer and soda.
Yeah,
that's what they sold. Now, food is the number 2 to fuel.
No kidding. Food?
Yeah. Food, number 2.
Number 2. Is that amazing?
Wow. I mean, that is amazing, because what's that? I mean, that's the last 10 years maybe.
Yeah.
Have to be 10, 15?
Yeah, about 15 years. I'd say that's when the push started, about 15 years ago. So, I mean, there's a lot of, there's all segments of food service, as you know. You got B&I, you got, different segments that, but it takes a lot of boots on the ground to do that. As far as the manufacturer side, to get out there with the distributors, with the brokers, and kind of penetrate that market.
No, I get it. And the reason I asked the question is, a lot of times some businesses are just happy where they're at. Like, they're just cool. Like, what, we have a good business. We like it. You know what I mean? But then there's, I don't know, us immigrants that we're just never satisfied. We just want, it's like, hey, you know what? This was a good year, but wasn't good enough.
I always say you can't get on your heels. You always have to be on your toes.
100%. That's a good
Get
saying.
on your heels, you're in trouble. That's when you get knocked down.
Yeah, because you get comfortable.
That's what they teach you in football. Never on your heels, always on your toes.
You play football?
Yeah, I played as a kid.
Nice.
Yeah, but always on your toes, never on your heels. Because when you're on your heels, you get knocked down.
Get pushed.
It's a good point. Joe, how about you? What are your thoughts? Maybe vision of the company from your perspective, sales, 3 years in, seeing the family operations, the growth that you guys have had the last 3 years. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the growth from once I joined the company was pretty crazy because, the first year I came in, we started working on some projects, and those projects probably took 18 to 24 months.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's not something that's easy, and it's not something that's well thought out. It just throws you curveballs left and right, and you just got to figure out, how can I make the customer happy? Because at the end of the day, it's they're selling that product and they want it to look a certain way on the shelf. And, if we want to continue to do business with that person, we're going to do anything we can to keep their business. So, I always hated the 5-year question thing. I've never been really happy about it. Yeah. But, going forward, I feel like it's in our family blood just to grow the business. It doesn't matter to what number it is.
Yeah.
It's just in our blood to grow it, to do everything we can to not take a step back, but just move forward little by little. And I think at the end of the day, as long as you're going after it that way, you can't lose.
Yeah, that's how it is. Even the last 60 days, before we even, hopped on, I told you, business, summertime is always a little slow for restaurants to begin with, but, I don't know, it's like every single year, somewhere deep inside me, I'm like, you know what, this year's going to be different. June, July, August, we're going to crush it. We're going to have increasing sales. Didn't happen again. But yeah, it's like
a good time to plan, especially in the summer because for us, I mean, our product is warm. It's in the oven. People are outside trying to grill during the summer.
Beach,
so, I mean, our pizza dough, we've got grilling instructions on how to put a stone on the grill and do pizza dough through the summer. So it's small things that, we kind of just try to encourage people to, buy pizza dough, have it as a fun activity. There's so much more you can actually do with it. And now that there's recipes that you can show on websites and anything to kind of grow the brand as you can is, what you're doing with your business and this podcast. And,
sure.
You can kind of go out there and really push the envelope and try and see where it gets you.
I like that. Let's do a little plug. Where can people find your product? Is there certain places they can go try it out?
Here in Charlotte, Food Lion, Harris Teeter. Go to Lowe's and buy pizza dough. They don't handle our other items. But as you get out of this market, up in Baltimore, Washington, Giant Foods, Pittsburgh, Giant Eagle Markets.
Okay.
Up in New York, King Supermarkets,
Weiss
ShopRite,
Markets.
Weiss Markets in Pennsylvania.
We sell the organic dough balls at Wegmans as well.
Nice. And so, and they're looking for what, the calzones?
Calzones, strombolis, pizza dough, all out of the deli section. Mainly where the deli pizzas are located, the prepared foods are located. Anywhere in that section, they can find it.
Awesome. So you guys heard it. Go support DePalo Foods. You guys know where to get it. Any last thoughts for you guys? Anything? Any suggestions, tips? Anybody out there that wants to get into the space or into the food business, restaurant business? I mean, there's a lot of stuff here. Mentorship, patience. Being nimble. Being ready to adjust. Staying on your toes. I like all that. I mean, these are very good, tangible advice that anybody that wants to start a landscape company could literally use. So any last thoughts, Philip?
It's not an easy journey that we all do in entrepreneurship. It's something that's not cut out for everybody. But I mean, if you don't give it a shot, then you have nothing. So
yeah,
I mean, like Rico said, find yourself a mentor. If you want to get into the food side of things, maybe hire another company to co-pack it for you. And, just keep trucking away, keep going at it. I mean, we all, struggle when it comes to owning a business, but that's part of the fun is getting through that struggle and, coming up with new opportunities and learning from it. So
I agree. Joe, parting thoughts? What do you think?
Whenever you are working with a business or other people, as an entrepreneur, just remember there's other people in the room beside yourself. You got to be not thinking of as much about yourself, but what can I do for this person that I'm trying to sell for? Because at the end of the day, it's again the relationships that you make with those people. And if those relationships are at the forefront of the business, you're going to have that business as much as long as you need it for. If once you start maybe not replying to some emails, missed a few things, they're going to be like, is this person dependable? Is this person, can I see myself working with them? So I always tell everybody, just put your best foot forward. Everything, you're going to have days where you're so you got an awesome sale. You're just so pumped. And then the next day you're just 3 employees just walked out the door. What are we
what just happened right now?
Philip comes into our office and we're just he's like, I had 3 employees leave. And we're just okay, let me get my smock and we'll get on the line and just start working. So
100%.
it's next man up mentality. Everybody wears, I might be sales, but I might be working on the line, a couple days a week. And we do that now. So it's something that you just got to be ready to handle and it's kind of fun when you look back at it.
I love how similar, it just small business is. It's the same exact way for us. The last 3 Fridays, I was on the truck doing deliveries. Yeah. We were shorthanded. My cousin's like, hey, we don't, Matthews, Monroe, Ballantyne area doesn't have a driver. What do you think? I'm like, I'll do it. 7 o'clock, I'll be there, have the truck ready, and bam, that's it,
That's what it takes, though.
That's it.
That's the difference.
I mean, customers first. Hey, you order a product, I will figure out a way that you're going to get the product. I don't care what happens. Right? Rico, last thoughts, just from your experience, 1982. I mean, you're a legend in the business. Give us some words of wisdom, sir.
I'll give you my last thoughts.
Okay.
For entrepreneurship.
Let's do it.
Never be scared to fail. Because that failure on your mind is always there. And don't let it get to you. You got to overcome it. Because people sometimes they have great ideas, they never execute.
Yeah.
Because they're scared to fail. Don't be scared to fail.
That's it.
Because sometimes people fail 3 and 4 times. The 5th time is when they hit it big.
100%. So. Yeah, I mean, don't have analysis paralysis. I mean, I'm not saying don't be prepared, but at the same time, I mean, yeah, the people who take a little risk are the ones that are going to benefit. Yeah. It's just like it's a risk reward thing. It's like, all right, well, does it make sense to invest this amount of money in this product? I mean, we just, the last maybe 18 to 24 months, my cousin and I have been putting some money aside to build onto our warehouse. We have a 25,000 square foot warehouse. We probably need another 25, honestly. We 4 or 5 months ago, we had an opportunity to take all that money that we put aside, which isn't millions, but it's it was a good amount of money, and to buy some products and to flip it and to turn it into some safety protection things for, and we found a buyer here at the hospital in Charlotte, and it was so nerve-wracking, but we did it and we benefited greatly. And I'm like, you know what? You see, if we weren't responsible, and if we would have listen, we don't get paid probably what we could, right, but to keep the business healthy, we just leave it back in the company, and we're able to do deals like that. And I'm like, you know what? This is why for the last 24 months we did what we did. Right. And I was telling that to my cousin, and that's why you live below your means, and you don't spend what you don't have, and which is good advice for anybody out definitely there. If you can't pay cash for it, for the most part, you probably don't need it.
Yeah. In our business, it's a little bit different because the equipment's starting to get bigger.
Oh, sure.
So, when we started in business, was that way. Hey, you had the cash. Yeah, we got the cash. Go buy. The guy was like, you're going to pay cash for this thing? You could finance. We don't finance anything. Pay it. Now the equipment's getting big.
No, of course.
You have to finance.
Of course. I'm not saying I'm buying a warehouse for cash, but I'm saying like products wise, or even
No. I have you. And you know what? When you take those positions and you have some cash and stuff, cash makes cash. And you got to do it. That's part of the business. Yeah. You're close enough to understand what's going on. And you always have a backup plan.
Sure.
You always have to have a backup plan.
Not to mention, you're always going to run into situations like that when you own a business. It's like, do I do this with the money, or do I do this with the money? And if you made the mistake and it wasn't a good thing, you learned from that mistake, and you're never going to make that mistake again. So
I remember, and we'll wrap up with this. I remember, I was trying to do some marketing and create more brand awareness to a lot of the churches locally that, this is 10, 11 years ago. So I went to Google and just printed out, all of the churches, like 100 churches locally. And I went and had like a little postcard made at Office Depot, and it, with the stamp, it cost me like $1.50. It wasn't like Shutterfly or anything like this that could make me, and I didn't even think about the Google searches maybe being wrong. Out of the 100 we sent out, I think I got like 68 of them back. Like the churches didn't even exist anymore. And I'm like, okay, this is great.
Those are business experiences. Those are stories that you'll tell forever.
I know
what I'm saying?
I know.
They're great business experiences. I have a bunch. I could sit here for 3 hours and go over story after story of what I did when I was starting off. It's like you're climbing this hill and it's like you're running in place at times.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys. If you guys can, go out there and support DePalo Foods. Check out your local grocery store, pizza dough, calzones, strombolis, the whole nine. If you're here in Charlotte, pick some up. And it's an awesome time. I thank you guys. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.